about this time is something that our organization does at least once or twice a year. And the time frame is compressed. The time frame between launching a project and being able to measure the results of the project is weeks as opposed to 18 months or 2 years. And the reason I think this is important is when it comes to leadership development, and we talked last month a little bit about the fact that the art of delegation and delegating well really is leadership development. So in this situation, and I think for all of our listeners, as you think about quarterly events or even things that happen once or twice a year, to be able to hand it off completely, say we're really not going to follow up till it's over. This is not going to make or break our organization, but because of the scheduling, I'm really handing this off, and then we will look at results and evaluate. So I think this because again, there are 2-year projects we need to check in along the way. There are projects where you can actually hand it off, and you really learn more about your leaders in those situations where you hand it off and say, let's meet at the end and talk about results. So going back to something we touched on last month, this whole idea of micromanaging, if in a project that was really a 2-month project, basically, if you'd said, okay, we're going to meet I want an update every 4 days, I want an update every Friday at 2 o'clock, that would have felt like micromanaging, I think, because of the scope. So I think scheduling and scope, I think leaders have to ask the question, is this something I can hand off? Let's talk about the results when there's something to measure. This isn't going to sink the ship, make or break, but we've got to evaluate, because next year if we do this again, we want to do a better job. So I think making those distinctions for a leader is super important, especially as it relates to on one ditch is abdicating, which is I hand it off and I don't really follow up to find out what happened. The other ditch is let's meet every 3 days for an hour to so you can turn in a report and make a presentation that drives everybody crazy. Staying out of both of those ditches is important, and I think what you've illustrated for us here, Gavin, is that the nature of the project probably determine how all of that is managed.
What did you say?
Yeah, ownership has become my favorite level of delegation, because ownership is literally, I want you to own everything about the project or the task. I don't need regular updates. We don't need to necessarily meet regularly. I'll remain available if you need to ask questions, but we're not going to schedule those times. And I don't even really need to know how you did it or even when it's done. I just trust that you are owning every bit of this.
Gavin, give us an example of ownership.
Sure. A great example for us is our Sunday morning security with children. If you're a parent coming to our church, your primary concern probably is not anything other than the safety of your kids. Now, you hope it's fine, you hope it's helpful, you hope they learn something, right? But in the end, you don't want to spend an hour worrying about your children. You want to make sure that they are safe. For me, that's a perfect example of a level 4 delegation. Our family ministry staff, our directors, completely own the security systems that we have, including the evacuation procedures. Everything that we do around security, they own it completely, which is a great example of level 4 delegation.
Now this brings up a great leadership dilemma, because that is so out of sight, out of mind. I mean, you don't plan it doesn't come up in meetings. Now, if it goes wrong, everybody knows. I mean, if something happens to a child in one of our churches, everybody knows if a kid gets lost. So how then, circling back around, it's out of sight, out of mind. Nobody's coming in every week to report and say, good news, Gavin, we didn't lose any kids this Sunday in the halls. Every parent reconnected with their baby. There's no report structure. It's extremely important. It is more meeting.
Yeah, we're going to meet at the end, and I'm going to be able to say thank you directly.
We're going to evaluate.
Right. This one for me as a leader, it certainly can create a dilemma. But for me, it just requires me to be a lot more intentional about paying attention to what's happening. It doesn't mean that I wait for a kid to get lost and go, wow, we had 300 days before without that, way to go. But
There's no,
Right.
That's not much of a consolation.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So-
so we didn't lose the other
Right.
414.
And you know what here's what I have discovered is that I don't know that I have to specifically say thank you for an individual action for people to feel grateful and to keep them motivated.
That's a great point.
I think that I can, as much as I possibly can, just encourage them, thank them for everything they're doing. I actually have learned to say, I don't even know everything you're doing to make this place fantastic. Thank you for doing it. Just little verbiage pieces like that have become so helpful for me.
And I think the takeaway for this, for all of us, even the three of us sitting in this room, is I would imagine within 5 minutes I could make a list of 5 or 6 or 7 things that I take for granted because they're out of sight, out of mind, and the leaders are doing such a fantastic job that they stay out of sight, out of mind, but they are as mission critical as anything that we evaluate on a weekly or monthly basis. And those
Have
are
you
the
evaluated
areas,
on a
that
weekly or monthly
short
basis?
list is where I need to start.
Oh,
putting more
is that what he
things
said?
Yeah.
To say,
That's good.
I thought about it, I noticed, you're doing such a great job, I never have to worry about the fact that you're doing such a great job. So I think, again, for this area, as you said, Gavin, the intentionality of gratitude is probably more important than ever.
Gavin, you referenced earlier that you've created a common language around this, so when you delegate, do you use this language?
Right. Well, at times, yes. But, I mean, we don't in every delegation look each other in the eyes and say, no, this is a level 3 delegation, right? I mean, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
The common language mostly is for me. It has helped provide me with such clarity on knowing what we're going to delegate and how we're going to do it. Because every task and actually every person that we're delegating to is unique. And so each process needs a unique delegation. The common language is being used on my end more than anyone.
And then, and this is an example, you've been able to teach this to your staff and to your leaders to say, as you delegate, don't forget number 1, which is involve them early. Don't forget number 2, there's got to be clarity. And then there's different kinds of projects that require different kind of follow-up. So I think creating the language makes it transferable, which in leadership, again, as we said at the beginning, delegation is leadership development. Taking it to this level, I think, increases the potential for actually using delegation as leadership development.
Well, Gavin, as we wrap up, tell our audience, what has been the biggest win for you in using this system?
Well, for one, it certainly has created clarity in delegation, and not just clarity for me, but clarity for both of us on both sides of the delegation. I have an expectation of exactly what I'm hoping to get back, whether it's just investigation or whether it's complete ownership, but it's also so helpful for the person I'm delegating to, because they have a clear expectation for what I'm hoping to have happen as well. So clarity is certainly the first one. Leadership development, Andy, you've mentioned that. It is so helpful. What a great way to develop leaders. Some things can only be learned through experience. And
Most
so,
things, yeah.
yeah, most things really. And so for me, delegation has allowed me not to give away the things that I need to be doing, but to expand other people's influence and expand their ability to lead by giving them things to actually lead. So that has been a super helpful piece of this. And then the third one is it has allowed me to really focus on where I add the most value. We never want to delegate the things that are unique to us, the things in the organization that only we should be doing. But this has allowed me really to create a lens to see what I should be doing, what I should not be doing, and then to delegate those things appropriately.
So Gavin, if we had a live audience and we stopped now and said, hey, are there any questions? I can tell you what the first question would be. The first question would be, okay, but what do you do when you delegated something and you're trying to stay out of it, you don't want to micromanage, and you realize it's not working, it's not happening, I'm hearing from other people that there's a problem, what do you do? Have you ever had to step into a situation like that and take responsibility back or take somebody off of a project? What happened? How do you do that?
Yeah, that is a great question, and I have had to do that. And the problem, though, really wasn't with the person I delegated it to. The problem was that I didn't delegate appropriately up front with that person. So often, and if we go back to what we said last month, if level 1 is investigation, level 2 informed progress, if I leverage those correctly, I'm choosing the right person well before I get to level 4 of ownership. I'm not going to give a level 4 delegation to someone who's brand new in the organization, who I don't know their capacity, or even don't know their passion yet. But through level 1, we really dig into that so much more clearly. In level 2, I'm able to walk alongside of them as they accomplish a task. So again, we're not just going to turn something over to someone who we haven't really worked with long enough to know where they're at.
So if you do number 1 and if you do level 1 and level 2 well, it certainly decreases the chances of a
Absolutely.
disaster later on, and that makes sense. But you have at times in the past had to step in and take responsibility away from someone because it wasn't working.
Yeah, absolutely. And people have done that with me before when I was a younger leader too. But here's what I hope happens, and I say hope because it's our goal. I never want anyone to feel that they're only as successful as their very last project or their very last task. You know, I don't want people going home every weekend wondering, you know, if I'm okay. So if we fail at something, that doesn't mean that we failed at our entire job, and it doesn't mean we're not going to get another opportunity. And so I think for us, and for me specifically, I've just tried to, when I have to step in, even though I said I didn't want to, or even if we have a technically ownership level 4 delegation, and I do have to step back in at some point, I just want to ensure that the person I'm working with knows that I still believe in them, I still trust them. This doesn't mean they're not going to get another chance again. It just means that for this specific project, maybe I failed by giving them too much responsibility, or maybe I didn't give them enough information. Because the reality is that it usually does fall back on me when we have that failure.
I was going to say, in cases where I've had to step back in, generally, I wasn't clear.
Correct.
I didn't set up super specific expectations, or I didn't, in my case, oftentimes, I haven't defined success well enough. And there have been times when I've stepped in and a person was shocked. They were completely shocked because the way they were measuring their success was so different than the way I was measuring their success. Well, that's my fault, chances are. I mean, that's something you can write on paper and say, here's how we're going to measure success with this project or with this job description. So I do think as leaders, at some point, we have to look in the mirror before we step in and, you know, take responsibility or take a task away from someone. But and the reason I asked, one of the reasons is because I think you're exactly right. That level 1 that we talked about last month is so important. You learn so much in that investigation process. It definitely decreases the chances of failure later on.
And if in the delegation process, if we can avoid the drive-by delegations, I mean, after we decide on what level we think a project or task is going to be, I mean, if we just decide on the right person and then create great clarity around the expectation, if nothing else, the person we're delegating to has the opportunity to ask great questions before they bump into a situation that may cause a failure or cause me to have to step back in.
I think stepping back, so at the macro level, the whole idea of delegation goes back to something we talk about thematically on this leadership podcast, and that is leaders need to practice saying, you decide, you decide, you decide. As Gavin has illustrated in his career with us and in the things that we've talked about, if he had not been willing to hand off not just task but responsibility, his organization wouldn't be where it is. And so he's developed in his own style a way of saying, you decide, you really do own this, you decide, and if there's a problem, I'll help you take responsibility because I'm giving you permission to decide. And then I guess the last thing, I think every leader listening should take those 4 ideas that we've talked about, these 4 levels, and think about how they are currently delegating, because we are all doing this well, we're all doing this unwell, but delegation is a central part of leadership. And the better we do this, the better leaders we are, and the stronger our organizations become.
Andy and Gavin, thanks so much for your time today. And those of you who want more information on this topic, you can check out Gavin's blog at gavinadams.com, GAVINADAMS.com. Thanks again for listening, and join us next month for the podcast. Until then, you can hear more from Andy on leadership at andystanley.com.
All right. What stood out to y'all? Some smiles. What's going on? I saw you guys really lit up when you said you decide.
You decide.
That's the only word that's like sticking in my mind.
Why does that stick in your mind, Tina?
I think you know.
You think so? Have you ever heard me say that before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know where I got that from now?
Yeah.
That concept was revolutionary to me.
Can see that.
Because true education teaches men to think for themselves, to have independent thought, and to not be the reflectors of other men's thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And the purpose of a healthy, growing organization is that, we have to be able to push that authority to decide and to make these judgment calls deep into our organization. And the ability to expand, like we said, we want to have a worldwide impact. In order to be able to impact the world, we need to be able to make decisions at a micro and macro level. And we can't always be asking the question, what would Enoch do? Or what would Enoch want? Or things like that. We need to be able to see what would be best for the organization. What would God have me to do with my talents and ability and faculties of the mind? So this is good. We're all growing. We're all learning. We're all improving. Well, what else? Who else would like to share what stood out to them?
I wish you'd stopped it right before then, because we had some other thoughts. But once we got that, you decide. It's like, what did we hear before?
You're funny. We'll do some review. Why did that stand out to you, Kathy?
What else did?
No, I'm saying why did that stand out to you?
Because I'm hearing you say that, and they're going, that's where he got it, and it makes sense. I'm not saying that.
What?
But sometimes, when you don't know, you really want help in deciding. And so, but at the same time, you see like, yes, if I can make this decision, that would be better. But I don't know the answer.
I definitely need to work on exercising those muscles.
Yeah, because there's definitely a fine line between receiving help to decide and then making the decision for us. Why is it important to have more people making decisions?
The more minds, the better.
Because it involves more people, I think.
You get a variety of different thoughts. Like, it's not just like one man driven.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't have time to grow if other people weren't making decisions. If you had to make all the decisions, it would take up too much time, too much resources and mentality.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like where he said drive-by delegating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that
thought
too.
was
Yeah, drive-by
I
delegate.
bolded that in my notes.
It made me think of like China, where they tell you what you have to do. You don't have a choice. And,
What?
And how we have a choice over here, and how things evolve over here, and to such an extent
You're
that
talking about America here?
Yeah.
Okay.
And to an extent, we could say, what do you like? What do you enjoy? And get the best out of that person because they're doing what they want to do, not what somebody said. You're going to be a shoe shiner. You know what I mean? All your life, and they're stuck in that.
When you picture a drive-by delegation,
Shoe shiner?
what do you
It's
see
like-
that
it's like
meaning?
bullets just going throughout, saying, okay, this is what you're going to focus on, this is what you're going to focus on, and and it might not it might not mingle with them very well. They're saying, what? Public speaking? I don't know how to do that. When one person does and the other person doesn't, but it doesn't matter because this one who does know how to do it didn't get shot with that. The other person did. And so it's like spraying delegation throughout the organization where it doesn't belong. That's what I was thinking.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
When I heard drive-by delegation, what I heard was that there was not. Oh, okay. It's under here where it's talking about the chances of failure, and where it was a delegation that wasn't given very much thought or clarity, and so it just kind of like, oh, something needs to be done. Hey, can you take care of this? Okay, great, thank you, and then just keep going. Where if something's worth delegating, to be able to consider and to think what level of delegation would this be? Level 1, 2, 3, 4. Who would be the right person? When would it need to be done? What needs to be done? And like that delegation triangle of who, when, and like what. and like being able to clearly set the expectations and define what does success look like in this role or responsibility, where as like a drive-by, it would just be like here and then take off, and because they are unclear on what they're doing, it's much higher chance of just of not fulfilling. But it's interesting how we go.
And at the beginning, when I wanted to stop, I wanted to bring to you guys' attention. Clearly, this man is into bringing a system to delegation, the functioning of a business, and just because somebody like doesn't, they like something and they put a course out or something like that, they might be doing that just for money. But if you take somebody who's passionate, they're going to take the cream of skim off the top of the best information that they can find and put it together like this man. He's so like intelligent in that manner, and you can tell his whole heart and his life and his passion is into helping companies do that. I'm so glad that we get to listen to this.
When they say next month, I'm going, no, we need to know. We need to know now.
Next month for what?
They were doing this once a month.
Like part 1 and part 2?
So yeah, yesterday I'm going, no, not a whole month before we get the next part.
Yeah. I know what you mean. I felt like that too sometimes, but until you catch up, you don't really have to worry about that.
Yeah, right. I realize that. They come in and it's today and I'm going, oh good, it's been a month.
No, it's been several years.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. What about you, Cameron?
I was thinking about my own job, and something clicked about how delegation works in the different stages of it. Because when I was first there, they had me watching and learning and gathering information. And then after a while, you start doing things, but guided, and there are other people there to help you. And then after you get to a certain point, then they have you doing it yourself. When you go and you check in and then let them know what's going on, and then once that's done, then you're doing what you need to do, and without any supervision, everything's going well. So that helps me to understand what the different stages were of delegation. And also, I appreciated that they clarified why exactly it's necessary to be really clear when you're delegating a task or a responsibility. Because I know that in my own experience, when I wasn't clear as to what the result should be or what defines success, I really am paralyzed. I don't know what to do, and I don't know how to go about doing what needs to be done when I don't know what defines success.
Yeah. That's so true, and I found with our ministry here that the times when we're like, look, this day will be successful if this happens, that usually happens, or this hour will be successful if we can do this, or this week will be successful if by the end of the week we get this done. It's like, even if we don't get that done by that deadline, we still get much further towards that end than we would if we didn't otherwise set ourselves out to do that. And for years, I would not set these deadlines because I would be afraid of failing or not reaching those. But it's like, and then I realized, I'm like, wait a second, if you don't reach your deadline, all you have to do is set a new deadline. It's really, that is just there because our brain works with these systems of having deadlines, and it needs a compelling timeline to try to get something done by. And without that, work expands according to the time allotted to it. So if you give it an hour, we get it done in an hour. If we give it 10 days, we get it done in 10 days. Or a year, we get it done in a year. Just according to how much time we give it, that's how long we'll think we have. So that was really powerful to me too. It's interesting. Mom, you want to say something?
Well, I was just going to say we're counseled to put a deadline.
Yeah. Very true. Christ
Yeah.
object lessons.
And to work diligently and quickly toward it.
Yeah. And Christ definitely had a deadline for his 3.5 years. He had a time prophecy that even predicted when the Messiah would be cut off. He knew that his time was short and the harvest was plenty and some laborers were few. One thing that really stood out to me in this whole thing is what they were calling the common language. The thing is, Gavin, he wordsmithed to these complicated ideas into like 2 words, like investigation or informed progress, and that created a watchword. What they were calling the common language was really like a watchword that his community of leaders were able to understand to be able to train and disciple other people in leadership. I was like, wow. And not what's being like impressed more and more is that these watchwords are so essential, like archaic synonyms. Once you understand what an archaic synonym is, the question is like, yeah, but how do I find exactly the struggle that I'm going through? I'm trying to figure out this decision. How do I find this specific in the scriptures? We're like, well, that's simple. You need to find an archaic synonym, an old, outdated phrase that the Bible would use. That a synonym is a different word that means the same thing of the principle that you're experiencing. Once you can identify one archaic synonym, you got a word search. When you find one verse that talks about what you're talking about, you can go to TSK and you can find unlimited amount of other verses through cross-references. So it's like the archaic synonym allows like the Bible to become very relevant and timely in our experience. And with that phrase, you're able to explain that concept quickly. And what's amazing about watchwords is when you have a watchword and you're intentional about teaching with watchwords, then it duplicates because you're giving the students a common language. You're giving them a phrase to encapsulate an idea that they can run with, and they can carry the same message to other people so they can teach the concepts as well. Where otherwise, all of us have to figure out our own way of explaining how to take Bible principles and extract the outdated words and try to apply them to our everyday life, which that is just a smorgasbord of confusion. But I was just like, these 4 levels of delegation, that's like the framework, and then the different stages were amazing to me. That stood out to me because as I'm researching about adult education, I'm just seeing it's essential. So let's do some review. What were the 4 stages? I want to hear from all 4 of you. So feel free to pick the one that you're most familiar with. What is number 1? Investigation. What is investigation and why is it important?
This is where you're like learning the I don't know, like
You do know.
the person. This is where, and you're involving. Is it the stage when you're involving the person and like figuring
No,
out?
that's the second one.
Oh, hold on, Mom. Let her talk. You're involving the people and figuring out what? Well, I don't think we had enough information to answer your question.
Sorry.
That's
You,
okay.
you were doing fine, Tina. I think you're on the right track.
I could be wrong, Tina. Go ahead.
You're doing good. You just gotta
Ignore Mama.
keep on keeping on.
I don't know. Is it like when the
Investigation.
person is investigating the? I know what the next one is, but I'm not exactly sure.
You don't have to be exactly
Investigate
sure.
the situation.
Investigate the
Like,
situation.
What needs to be delegated? I'm not exactly sure.
So,
Okay.
is like delegation of a project or responsibility even on the mind of the person investigating at this point? No, it's not, because they're simply investigating.
Mm-hmm.
They see a need, they see a problem in the ministry, in the business or organization, and they're just saying, what are some possible solutions? Let's gather information. What are the options that are out there? and as the person is being involved in the research, they're just gathering information, bringing it back to a team or bringing it back to others, and they're just saying, what options do we have? And then and then you get to test that out. So why is that important to investigate, to involve someone first in that as a first step?
Do you involve someone in the first step? Like someone else? Is it like a...
Whoever's investigating.
When you are stage 1 is having someone to go research and come back. So when you say involve someone, what do you mean by that?
Because I know one of them is like... Okay, I'm kind of confused.
No, you don't sound confused to me. You seem like you're doing fine. You just need to express and have confidence in what you're saying. You're not confused. Everything you've said was right. But I don't understand your question. Do you involve someone in step 1?
Or is it you that does the investigation?
That wouldn't be delegation. The reason why you involve someone else in investigating is because that is their opportunity to show how interested or how capable they would be for that. And have you ever been delegated something and like the first question is like,
Why did they?
why? Like, no, it's like, why does this need to be done? Or it's like, why are we doing this? What are you expecting? It's like, what, why, yeah, maybe why me? Maybe it's like, how come right now? Why right now? Or different things come where you're just unclear. There's just so many questions when you set out to, when you've been like assigned a task or something. If you were involved from the beginning in seeing the need and figuring out possible solutions, none of those questions would arise. You wouldn't be asking any of those. So the investigation is kind of pre-framing the individual to be prepared
To take on the task.
to take on the task
Okay.
and to become discipled, to be trained, to be encouraged or helped. Yeah. Yes?
So I know what the second one is.
What's the second one?
The second one is choosing somebody that would.
What's it called?
I don't know, it starts with the I too.
Informed?
Decision, informed. I don't remember.
Does anyone remember?
I know it started with an I.
Anyone at all?
I was trying to remember.
Informed progress.
You got
Yes,
it.
that's it.
Informed progress.
Yeah.
Okay, what is informed
So
progress?
then, that's like saying, oh, okay, we do need this, and we're gonna choose that person. You help them to have what they need to carry it out, right?
Help them have what they need to carry it out? Yes,
Yeah.
it is. Can you explain what the informed and the progress part is of the phrase?
Informed is giving them the understanding of what is expected, what they're trying to do, and then the progress is them going out to do it.
No.
Or do it.
No. The informed of what they need in order to do it, that's all in stage 1. And they figure that out. You're not giving them the information. They're investigating that information. So they're already informed as to what needs to be done.
Expect
Nope.
to,
They already understand about what is expected in stage 1. The informed is the person, the delegate is informing the delegator and saying, hey, this is what the progress, like as they're doing the project or responsibility, this is how things are going as it's going forward. So it's a report.
Oh, okay.
So the informed is like reporting. This
The progress
is the
that's being
progress.
made on it?
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And that it's like a structured, systematic reporting system where the leader is being available to help answer questions, to help just be kept in the loop and not micromanaging, but
So
just,
you do your 6-inch putt with that person?
yeah. Yeah, that's like a 6-inch putt. 6-inch putt right there. That's right. That's neat. It's nice to make that connection. So what's the third one?
How many are there?
4. You're like, how many are there?
Let's just guess.
Yeah, that's
4,
good. That's a
so
good
4.
guess.
I
Kathy, do you have?
don't know them.
Do you remember this one was all on the last 2?
On the last 2,
Yeah, this whole podcast was on the last
this
2.
whole pass. Yes, I know that.
Do you remember what it was about? It was informed something.
So it was informed progress and then informed something else?
Yeah.
Can we look?
Yeah, it's open book. Go
Is it
for it.
informed decision?
So close. Informed results. Informed results. Kathy, what do you remember about informed results? Or if you had to guess, what would you think that that's about? If informed progress was reporting on the progress that's being made, it's like a progress report, then what would informed results be?
The progress is being made.
No, that would be informed progress.
Progress.
But what would be informed results?
That the job is done and you're giving the results of the thing that was accomplished.
Absolutely, that's what it is. Think about it like an evaluation. Like, hey, I know you know everything. I know you have everything you need to get it done. I'm still available if you need, but we're not gonna have a set time where we're gonna get together. But it's kind of like, just let me know when this is done.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, think about it like an evaluation, where we do the frontline questionnaire after the Bible study is done. It's like, you don't have to talk to me as you're giving the Bible study, but when you're done with the Bible study, let's get together and let's evaluate how it went. Because what gets evaluated gets improved. What gets measured gets improved. So it provides an opportunity to be like, hey, let's talk. What lessons did you learn? What challenges did you face? And what are you going to do differently next time? If you could do it over again, what would you do? Like, it just having this conversation about when the result is done, the task is complete, the project is complete, it's over. Does that make sense?
It does.
So that's a little more hands-off approach. But a lot of times, leaders struggle when we are delegating things. We don't give enough clarity. We skip stage 1 entirely. And then we think that people are able to just go off and do it, and we don't have to think about it again because they said that they'll do it. But really, they have questions. And I'm finding that people have questions, and they are afraid to ask because they don't want to bother the leader. And so having progress report system like informed progress is really helpful to be able to provide that feedback. But there's a lot of the challenges that arise because of lack of clarity on what needs to be done, and then stress and failure, feeling like I don't know what success looks like, I'm failing and I can't succeed, and I don't want to ask for help because that is going to appear as though I'm incompetent and unable to do what I was asked of. And so there's a lot of these insecurities that come up. So clarity doesn't happen and the work doesn't go forward. So to try to take the pressure off of the individual from having to feel like a failure by asking questions, you just create, as part of the system, recognizing this is stage 2. Like, at stage 2, I'm just available and I'm here, and we're going to schedule a time where we can ask all these questions and see what needs to move forward. It's extremely helpful.
So investigation is you've already recognized that you think this person is good for it.
Yes, exactly. Investigation stage 1 is when you have a hunch that this person would be a right person for the job. So you're just asking them to be involved early on and just say, hey, they might have an interest. Can you go see what needs to be done? It's like for GYC. We have a hunch, a pretty strong hunch, that mom is very interested in GYC. So we'd be like, hey, mom, we don't know when the next GYC Northwest is. Can you figure that out? And so she finds a date, she finds the website, she finds details. So she's reading up on it. She's investigating and researching, and the more she sees it, the bigger the vision gets in her mind of the possibilities of what could be done. And then it's like, okay, and then she reports back, it's at this dates, we can make, this is how many hours it is, and I think I got a place for us to stay. It's like, oh wow, that's pretty cool. Good investigation, Mom. And then we're like, all right, who's going to be in charge of taking over, like as we're moving forward? And she's like, I'd like to do this. She's like, okay. So then it's informed progress, where now it's like she's going to work on getting a booth. She is going to work on trying to just figure out the schedule, what's happening, and some of the logistics, and then she's able to come back and report to us, just say, hey, this is the progress that has been made. This is what we can expect. This is what we would need. And the 6-inch putt, where it's like, I have these options. This is what I recommend, but what do you guys think would be best? That would be like informed progress. And then it comes a point where it's like, all right, we're good to go. You're good to go. Just start placing the orders, buying the tickets, and arranging it and securing the slots. And then and then just let us know when it's all done. That's informed results. And then after it's done, we can say, hey, was there challenges? Did it work? What would you do differently? And at the end of the event, we're able to come back and we can gather and we can evaluate, how did GYC go? How did the booth go? What would we do differently?
What's that part called?
That's informed results.
What's after informed results?
That's my next question. Number 4, comment. What would be stage 4?
I didn't get that one.
If you had to guess. Starts with an O.
O. W.
Yes.
N.
Yes.
Ownership.
Yes, he's got it. So, ownership. Now, what do you think ownership looks like, Kamran?
I think it looks like someone just having complete ownership over responsibilities.
Yeah. Do they report?
No.
So there's not a whole lot of information passing back and forth of the completion of the responsibility?
I don't think so.
No, there isn't. It's ownership, stage 4, is like the best part. That's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. That's like little to no maintenance. That's like you are equipped, you are trained, you understand, you're prepared, you know the dynamics, and you're not asking for help. You're not like yeah, and it's not that the leader's not available to help answer if things come up or to touch back and forth, but it's kind of like it gets done, and it's not even like something that it gets thought about, and it just, there's a lot of gratitude there. And at that point, what's some of the risks that we have to try to avoid when there's at this ownership stage? What's easy to neglect when it's out of sight, out of mind?
Involved through
Recognizing
cracks.
it. And yeah, that's what he said, right?
Yeah, recognition.
You fail to like think about it, and you take it for granted.
Yes, and appreciation. What motivates volunteers is totally different than what motivates employees. And so the currency that volunteers work on is appreciation. That's one of them. And being able to express that appreciation, being intentional about going out of your way and sharing that, hey, this is what you do and how it fits into the bigger picture and why your work matters and how you have an essential part of the big picture. And thank you so much for choosing to show up and serve, because you're doing it every day. And I mean, we're not always there to like acknowledge it or see that or even think about it, but it's making a difference, and be encouraged, because that's easy to forget, and people really need to know that what they do matters.
That's what they're doing it for, especially if they're volunteering it.
Yeah, it's
They're doing it,
part of it.
to know that it does matter.
Yeah, Exactly.
Different.
And how to motivate volunteers is a whole nother subject, whole nother podcast that you can go into. But basically, these are the 4 stages of delegation. And I like looking back in my experience, I realize this has really been a tremendous like foundation for me over the years. It was novel to me in 2016 when I first heard it. It was challenging to implement in 2017, and then like 2018 was improving. 2019 with the church, it was a whole lot. I saw more of the fruition where I was in my mind. Anytime that I delegate, I'm always thinking about these 4 stages. It's just like chunks in my mind that I recognize that an individual needs to investigate so they can learn. Someone is going to make progress and do it, but I need to make sure that I'm there and available to help them along the way. Like with Kim organizing the content team, like I'm there, like I need to be available, or other people. And then I realize that some people, they know how to do it, but I need to be available when it's done to just discuss and feedback and improve and how can we do that. And then some people, they're just like it's done. Like they say that they're going to do it, I know it's going to be done, and it has been, and I don't even think about it. But the more that all of us could think about these stages, because we're kind of going in a progression. We have the focus funnel. What's the first step of the focus funnel?
Get the people in there.
No, these are tasks. Every task, every project,
Elimination?
everything. Just before that.
Eliminate.
Yes, elimination. Because if it doesn't have to be done,
Elimination?
elimination.
That's what I said.
Oh, I thought you said automation.
No.
I'm sorry. Elimination. Yep. Does it need to be done?
Jeez.
No? Eliminate it. Thank you. And then if it is it a recurring task, what should we do? Automate it.
Oh yeah.
How do you automate something?
That's what we're talking about in different months.
How do you automate something?
Can everything be automated then?
Everything that's recurring can be automated. Every last thing.
You automate it by setting up something that'll trigger it to, if this, then that. This happens, then that happens.
So you can have
Like emails.
you can have programs that will automate things that could automate a lot in our life digitally with the internet. But systems will automate other things where, like for instance, like a Bible reading, even if a person is carrying it forward through delegation, what's automated is deciding what verses to go in what order. So rather than you coming up with the order of the verses in the Bible study every single time you go through this subject and then refiguring out all the next verses with the next contact as you're going through a series, the system of the Bible reading guides shows you it's automating what's the next thing you're doing. It's automating what verse and question you're asking, so you do it once and you never have to think or decide what verse or question you're going to ask again, or what subject is going to follow which. It's fully automated, even though it can be carried out in the physical realm by a person. Does that make sense? Systems automate. And then the third one, delegate. Yes. So what we were doing is this delegate stage can be broken up into 4 pieces. And so we're repeating and enlarging on the same concepts. I want to show the relation of these ideas to each other, and just want to encourage us that the more that we learn how to do that, it's going to help us tremendously. So let's close with a word of prayer. Who would like to pray for us?
I would.
I thank you, Kevin.
Our most kind Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the opportunity we have to learn these important things that will make things so much easier. We thank you, Lord, because there is system and order in your system, in your the way you work, and we just ask, Lord, that we can continue to be a part of your plan, and help us, Lord, to glorify you in all that we do and say. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
He has a system.
He does. And what was beautiful is I listened to this hour video just on systems for everything, and then I studied systems in the Spirit of Prophecy, and I found that she says system is everything, and she was mentioning how many systems she had in life, and I was like, wait a second, you can have systems for all 7 areas of your life, and these systems allow you to operate at an extremely high level. I was like, wow, all of these successful people throughout history, Jesus, Paul, Ellen White, they all have systems.
Makes sense.